Well, Liverpool, 4th, play Karabag, who are 18th. Danny, I'm keen to know from you what would constitute an acceptable season for Liverpool. And let's dwell on this, because Arne Slot, in the build-up to this one, was asked what an acceptable season for Liverpool would now be.
When you are Liverpool, the aim is to win the league. But we've only did this twice in the last 30 years. We want to be competitive in every single competition we are in. That's always the aim. But reality is also that in the last 3 years we've won 1 League Cup and 1 Premier League title. So when is things acceptable? I have my opinion about. I'm not going to share that. Outside world has his opinion about that. As we all know, it's a lot has been said about the 450 million, where people tend to forget the 300 million we brought in. I think it's going to be really difficult to quiet the outside noise with the position we are in the league. So even if we win a few games, every loss or every disappointing result will start the noise coming back again. That's what you can expect if you started the season as we did. Not started, but at a certain moment with so many losses. So it's impossible to shut down the noise at a club like this if you are not competing for the league.
What is he doing there, Danny? Is he arguing that people should have a bit of perspective here? Because if he is, it hasn't really come off for him.
Well, I think he's trying to give context. I mean, there's more to that interview as well regarding players' rotations. So lots of things he talks about. He's constantly put in front of the press because that's what you have to do as a manager of a big football club. And generally, I think he does pretty well. He's trying
on this occasion.
Well, unfortunately, because of the predicament they're in, it's some of it can sound a bit like excuses justifying the poor form, and that doesn't always fall well on fans. You know, when the fans who are listening. But he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't, really. If he's avoidant and concise and just is a bit flippant with a lot of the questions and moves them forward, then it's like, well, why is he not giving us more, or he's moody, or it's a difficult one. I don't mind it. It doesn't offend me, him trying to back himself a little bit and give himself some reasons and context as to why they are where they are. Ultimately, Liverpool are always judged on silverware. One of the biggest clubs in Europe. Yeah. The only way you can fail on winning silverware is by playing really well and being unlucky, and the fans are with you. Because when Klopp's Liverpool fall a point behind Man City on 96, 97 points and have had a fantastic season and lose a Champions League final or semi-final, you're all right not winning.
Yeah.
But you can't not win silverware and perform badly.
You see, I don't think this has come off for him here, Simon. He goes on to say, again, this is not going to be a popular opinion. Maybe the reason we won the league last season is because we played Paris Saint-Germain. Of course, they went out there and then. He said, we had a week to prepare for the league game.
Yeah, but so does his opposition. I mean, if you're going to compare like for like, I mean, Liverpool in European competitions, so are the people that are chasing down the Premier League title with him. I mean, ultimately, Aston Villa, perhaps not so much last season, but notwithstanding that, if you look at the teams that he's competing against to win the league this year, they've all got European competition, so I don't really understand what the argument is. What he's doing is qualifying the perspective. The object of the aim is to build a significant side that's capable of winning leagues there on afterwards, once you've won it. Yeah. It's no good going back and reciting the fact that Liverpool won 2 Premier League titles as a blueprint for an answer to the questions that he doesn't like, which is, why aren't you doing it in the here and now? That is an excuse. It is a qualified excuse. It is also fact. And you have to ask yourself, from Liverpool's point of view, why Manchester City were able to win leagues and then go on and build teams that win the next league and the next league. And the answer might simply be they spent more money than everybody else. This season, Liverpool have won a Premier League. I would argue they won a Premier League with a team assembled by Jurgen Klopp that Slot just slotted into and was sensible about. And I think the opposition last year wasn't as strong as in previous seasons and didn't push Liverpool as hard to make Liverpool have to win the league. That doesn't mean that Liverpool winning the league has been diminished or demeaned. It just means that the landscape was not quite as competitive as perhaps it could have been. So here we are now in the here and now. And this is now Slot's team. Okay, he's had some misfortune with players that he insisted upon signing that have had injuries and other players that haven't hit the ground running. And so he doesn't really have any reason for reciting the past, because the past, to some extent, I know that if you look at the past and you don't learn lessons from it, you're doomed to repeat it. So what is his lesson then? They're going to repeat winning the Premier League once every 15 years.
But don't you think, Simon? Don't you think all managers are guilty of this when they're in a corner a little bit? They'll justify things by doing looking back at what realistic. It's normal because you're constantly in that position of having to.
And the difficulty is of the constant media rolling cycle is that if you want to ask a manager a question, say, well, like, what's that got to do with the price of cheese? The fact that you've won one Premier League or two Premier Leagues over the last 30 years, I'm not quite clear what you're saying. Does that mean that you don't have to win one for the next 10 years then?
You see, I think you're on it, Simon. I got the impression he doesn't really want to answer what would be an acceptable season, Danny. He was skirting round that.
Well, I think
So
sometimes...
again, I'll put it to you.
Yeah.
To Danny Murphy, ex-Liverpool, this is your club. What's acceptable to you this season? Judging from where they are now. I mean, bear in mind, they've won 5 of their past 18 Premier League games.
Well, silverware, you've got to win something at Liverpool. Otherwise, a majority of the fans will class it as failure with the money they've spent and with the success of last season, not building on it. If you don't win something, you've failed. Now, you can fail gloriously, and that will be accepted. You can lose an FA Cup final or a Champions League semi-final on penalties, or, you know, you can be there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
If they falter in their Champions League campaign in the league and don't win it, i.e. no European football, or no elite European football next season, that will be complete failure for Liverpool Football Club, full stop. There's no caveats, there's no excuses, there's nothing.
Right.
If he finishes outside the top 4 and doesn't win the Premier League, doesn't get in the top 4, he's failed.
Right. He's failed if they're not top 4.
Yeah.
So many Liverpool's fans calling in, probably largely because Danny's alongside Simon and myself this morning. Dylan, good morning to you. What would constitute an acceptable season for you at your club then, Dylan?
Good morning, lads. Great show as always.
Thanks, Dylan.
Well, I think it's an acceptable season, as I agree with Danny. I think a good run in the Cup, Champions League, maybe semi-final, you'd be happy with that. But this might be an emotional opinion, but I was at the Spurs game last season, seeing us win a title in front of fans. And my opinion is, regardless of how we do this season, we have to just guarantee Champions League next season and move on. I don't think a knee-jerk reaction of sacking Slot would be the right choice for the club. It's not what we do. But the one point I did want to make that Simon might be able to help with is I think it's more of a problem above Arne Slot. So in a sense of we need a defender. This happened the season after we won the league with Klopp. We didn't go out, spend the money. We finished 30 points off first place that season with 2 defenders at the back in Kabak and Reece Williams. When you look into it, Diaz and Nunes had a low book value when they were sold. So surely there should be money there to do something like that. I just wonder what Simon thought on that.
I don't really know. I mean, on one hand, you'd say that Liverpool spent £450 million. On the other hand, Arne Slot will say they recouped £300 million. So there's a net spend of 150 million quid. I don't think they've ever been the biggest spenders. And they always tend to buy good players, Liverpool. I mean, obviously, Darwin Núñez, I think, is one that one could debate. So there has to be some sort of scenario where Liverpool and their ambition comes into question. But at the same token, they spent 450 million. I would then argue, as I did previously in the conversations where it was characterised that way, that was spent over 4 transfer windows.
Yeah,
because
it was also spent on replacing players he didn't probably want to leave, and that's got to be taken into consideration.
Interestingly, Danny, Dylan's saying there, what's acceptable? Champions League qualification is acceptable, and you were saying silverware is acceptable.
Well, Champions League qualification with a really strong run in Champions League FA Cup, for example, yeah. It depends how you fail, doesn't it? It's always that way. I don't think anything should just purely be based on silverware. But when you are Liverpool, every season I was there, irrelevant of what the squad was looking like or how much money you spent, the aim is to win something.
Right.